Just got more interesting.
Yo, tuned in for another episode of the Boy Impromptu Session. Looks like we got some folks watching on Facebook. Welcome. Thank you for
How's Operation Morgan Tape Drive? Just got more interesting.
As this we had Seprock Beats on the beat. Side B number 14 is what the name is. I don't know if it's on Bandcamp, but I know that you can get it at Sunken City Records. Double LP set. So, coming live from the Swamp Studios, or the Shop Studios, excuse me, in the Swamp. Well, it's not really swampy here. I like that nights, but summertime feels pretty. I think so. And as the title said, we have Josh Krafchick with us.
Yeah, that's correct.
With us. And the Millennial, he's going to explain the Millennial Slacker and his special program that he's got going on. And one moment. Now, remember, you can, as you tune in, you can be part of the conversation with the live chat. And also, remember, you can Skype me on the show if you want to give us a piece of your mind and want to share it that way. Pardon me. All right, hold on. Let me get this webcam going. Now, some of you guys might be just audio only, so pardon us. Wow, I try to figure this out. Hold on. All right, here we go.
We'll scoot in here.
We
haven't
actually tested the camera. Here we go. And that is, that's the charm. Here we go. Breaking the, fourth wall or some wall. Yes. All right, impromptu session.
I love this tail here.
Oh, that's bolts. That is a,
Is that where your nuts and bolts are?
This is, I'm going to show the camera here. This is basically the summation of bolts that are needed to complete this motorcycle project right here that I got going on. So that's what that is. Sorry about the mess in the Shop Studios. Sorry I broke a little bit of the movie magic. I've heard some people say, they're so surprised when they come to the shop in person how small it is. And
heard that before.
Yeah, but it's not the size
of the shop
that matters. It's what you do with the shop. That's what I keep telling myself. All right, let's see. Let me shut off this Seprock Beats. We'll come back to Seprock Beats at the end of the show. So, all right, got some folks. What's up, Danny? All right, we got Daniel Jernigan. I went to high school with him, man. What's up, man?
Nice.
Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you're still watching. Millennial Slacker guy. Hey, maybe you'll pick up some tips. Maybe you have some tips about finance and sort of life in general. Some just good. Well,
Yeah,
I'll
for
let
sure.
Josh talk about it. Yeah. So actually, yeah, let's talk about you. We got Josh
Cool.
on the show, and give us a little intro. Tell us a little bit about where you're from the beginning till now, and then we'll jump into the Millennial.
Yeah, it's
Millennial
funny.
Slacker.
James was my Series 7 tour back in the day, and we crossed paths recently.
For those that don't know what the Series 7 is, what is that?
It's some sort of test that you take so you can sell stocks, is basically what it is. And James was the professor there.
Professor
and
is such a strong word.
That's what started me on my journey to educate people the best way to grow their wealth.
What's up, Daniel's too.
And essentially the Millennial Slacker is...
Wait, so where are you from?
I grew up in Longwood, Florida.
Where's that?
It's outside of Orlando.
Okay.
So suburbs of Orlando. To make a long story short, went to Florida State in Tallahassee, made over to Jacksonville. I call it the Florida Triangle: Orlando, Tallahassee, Jacksonville. And so that's how I ended up here working at the company that's on James' shirt.
Wait, so that was that the, oh man. Hey, by the way, the views expressed on the boy do not reflect those of Fidelity or the organization. I just happened, it's a free shirt. Though I do have mad respect for Fidelity, so I'm not going to.
No, they're a great company.
I'm going to, here, you keep talking. I'm going to, there's something in the way of this. I want to get a better shot because we're like cramping. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Something about, I mean, it's live show. This is an embryonic phase.
Yeah.
We didn't get picked up by the record label yet. Netflix is calling us tomorrow.
I like the authenticity of the shop, though.
Well, I mean, it's just I don't have much other space to fuck around with this kind of shit. All right, here we go. It's not like I'm making any money out of this thing. So, it's only... Here we go. Can only delegate so much space. All right, here we go. And by the way, thank you for tuning in. We got one person on Facebook, one person on YouTube. You guys are very unique individuals. Think about this. Out of all the billions of people, that's thousands of millions of people in the world, only you guys are tuned in. So very unique.
Very intimate unique setting.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, we got 3 people. Got an extra person on Facebook. Facebook sort of, you know what I found is that my YouTube people, they jump on and they stay on. And the Facebook people, they like touch and go. Leave a comment, though, if you're on Facebook. Oh, got a touch and go right now. All right. Well, leave a comment if you're tuning in. Yeah. It looks like Daniel less tuned in.
Reminds me of like a chat roulette, touch and go, touch and go, touch and go. And then you get a random dude there that's doing something inappropriate.
Yes, indeed.
We'll leave it at that.
A little touch and go of their own.
Mm-hmm.
Other stuff. All right, so born. Oh wait. So when you went to college, and then did you go to work, or was that the first job?
First job out of school.
Yeah.
This is my first impression.
Wait,
of the workforce.
Back then, when was that?
2013.
Was I
January?
Did I give you a speech when you first got hired about the test?
Oh yeah.
Did I tell you about? Yeah.
Hair was down, by the way. Hair was down.
Yeah. I had long hair back then too. Okay. Because I cut it in between.
Yeah.
Did I talk about the never-ending story? Do you remember that part at all?
I remember Top Hat money bags.
Oh, Top Hat money.
Top Hat money bags, Monopoly, man.
Yeah, Top Hat money bags. So for those of you guys, no one should know about Top Hat money bags unless they were in my class. Top Hat money bags is the person who would invest, like someone so wealthy that they have so much money that it behooves them to invest their money in something that's tax-free, because otherwise their tax rate would be so high. But yet tax-free stuff gives no yield. It's like they know it's tax-free, so they give you no interest on it. So Top Hat money bags is the guy that invests in this shit. Or he also plays the role of like, he could be the accredited investor for a general partnership or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because only Top Hat Money Bags.
Only Top Hat Money Bags has the money bags to make things happen.
Yes. And if you happen to see the branding of the beer, please, Modelo. I'm not trying to like rip you off or something.
It's just good
so
beer.
Don't sue us. Yeah, I know. Like sometimes you gotta like, you see these shows where they blur it out. I guess
we got nothing to do.
Yeah,
we got nothing to take.
I mean,
so
if YouTube wants to take it out, I guess.
If you want to sue us for zero, then you can have 100% of zero.
Yeah, right.
Which is still zero.
So you work at the brokerage firm for a little while, and then you moved on to a different brokerage firm, right?
Yeah, went to another large brokerage firm at a nameless, faceless organization,
right.
As I like to put it. Work in the cubicle farm.
Yeah.
People would literally greet me, be like, "Welcome to your cubicle this morning, Mr. Krafchick. Is there anything I can do for you?" And I'm just what?
You really do feel like you're plugged in the matrix. If for those of you that have ever worked a phones job, Daniel, have you ever worked a phones job? I've worked phones jobs throughout my life, and like you plug in and you're like stuck, and like your brakes and everything is tied to a metric, and
yeah.
Your existence as a human for a period of 8 hours is
based on what you do on a phone.
Yeah.
Everything you do outside of that doesn't matter.
It gets weird. So
you could literally like save a baby from a burning carriage crossing the street, and it wouldn't matter.
Nah, it doesn't matter. All right, here we go. Yeah. So no, I know what that feeling. So then after that, you move out of the cubicle farm, and then what? What was it that like sort of motivated you out of that? Because I feel like there's probably people that either are listening live now or in the archives in the future who will benefit from sort of like, how do you break out of the cubicle? Because they might be in the farm of their own, you know.
Well, you have a choice. It's like you look at something and you can accept it as the normal, like, hey, this is what everyone else is doing. I should be doing the same thing. Or once you see there's no more money to be made, no more positions to grab, no more promotions, no more growth, nothing much more to learn, you got to go somewhere else. And if you're not growing, essentially you're dying. And having that sort of mindset. And like, if you just want to make, $150,000, $200,000 a year, but you're not growing as a person, are you really growing? Or is that price just sucking the life out of you slowly but surely?
Now, there's people out there that would be more than happy to get $100,000 a year. But if they were in that position, your point is you were there. There's so much more out there.
And just look at it as like your time. Like, how much is your time worth? Like,
yeah.
Because we're always getting older.
You can't get that back.
Cannot get that back.
Yeah.
And
Dolly talks about it.
Dolly does. Just talk about that.
God, I used to have a picture from the Dolly Museum of, a reprint of one of his.
And that's the thing with his clocks. All of his clocks are melted because of the time is always constant. It's always moving. No matter what's happening, time is always moving. So, I mean, you can look at it and take like the high paying job, or you can take a job that pays you half but gives you 3 times the amount of freedom.
Yeah.
Because even Warren Buffett says that time is something he can't buy.
Well, in a way, he can to some degree by buying his time back.
He can buy his time back through like drugs to keep him healthy. But
for instance, if someone has to work a menial job that they hate, then that's a piece of time that they have to pay out, that they can't get back, that they must sacrifice in order to survive or get to the next step. So Buffett can, for instance, just pursue, now that he has all this money coming in, residual income and stuff, he can pursue other things, which oddly enough allow him to get more money, which then frees him to get more money. And it begets itself, and it's almost an exponential. It can be if it wants to be. If you want it to be, like, you have to ask how high, how up is up.
There's no limit.
Right. So, it's well, where was I going with that? Oh, I used to tell people at Fidelity the difference between Fidelities and people like, I don't know, like the Charles Schwabs. Oh, thanks, man. the Charles Schwab's out there, or the eat what you kill firms is what they call it. So what's the big difference? So at Fidelity, for instance, I guess you would call them like a big box brokerage kind of thing, or like, is there a name for that? Like mass market brokerage or something like that. But it's for a mass market. It's not like you, I think
the mass affluent.
You like right now, yeah, maybe mass affluent. People like managerial class people making decent amount of money, but they're not super affluent people. Now they do have programs for super affluent, but it's like their sort of shtick is 401ks and also the mass market. Yep. Right.
Bringing that money back over, keeping it all
right. So it's simplified, nothing too crazy, stuff like that. So they have a lot of they are able to they're able to sort of piecemeal out or chop up the life of an investment advisor into sort of like replicable chunks, so you could scale it out to like basically the entire population of the United States if you had to, right? And so you have one person that sort of does this department that does this one thing, and a department that does this one thing, and a department, and they do it on a mass scale, and you get a salary for knowing this one thing. And that gives you a very strong foundation. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, what's up, Superfan Chris has joined us. And I think Superfan Mike has been on in incognito because someone's been watching. We got 3 people on YouTube, 3 unique people in the billions of people on the world, and 1 person on Facebook. Daniel said he gave away free government phones. Now, was that on the phones? Were you like tied to like a phone set, or like where you had to sit in a cubicle?
Is that a phone where you got to go to CVS and like wire money?
Ooh.
So somewhere,
right,
and make a payment.
Hey, I hope you got out from under that.
Well, I worked at a CVS in Tallahassee on Tennessee Street, and some of the things you would see in that store, my God, like this one girl walks in and looks for a pregnancy test, and you have to unlock it because they keep that. Because people shit locked up because people steal it,
and it's not even because it's expensive. I bet, right?
It's just common. People want it.
It's the
even though you can get a free pregnancy test from like anywhere nowadays.
Really?
Yeah. There's stuff out here at the beach. I see free pregnancy tests. Right. And then above it.
Superfan Mike. He's attorney. On. Oh, Daniel says no, sir. He was not on the phones. So at least he had
door-to-door sailing.
I mean, even in-person stuff is tough. Like, most people can't handle that in-person stuff.
I hand the girl this pregnancy test, and the first thing she says to me is, "Where's the bathroom?"
No way.
Didn't even pay for it. She went straight to the bathroom. And I was just like, low-scale things I've seen at CVS in Tallahassee. That's college for you. When you got to know, you got to know.
I guess.
Sometimes plan B becomes plan A.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What was I going to say? Oh, so yes, I used to tell them. So like these people that work there, which is great, right? They got great salaries, great competitive benefits, all that stuff. But it's like when you look at people who are sort of more like independent brokers who go out and gather their own customers and they build their business, and they're like marketing, and they're networking with other people with assets, and bringing in, they're part of the Rotary Club, or they're part of these social clubs, and they help people manage their assets, and they end up making like $1 million a year. And some of those guys at places like Fidelity or other big box sort of brokerage shops are like, whoa, how do you get, like, this guy gets 350,000? Well, this guy gets $1 million. What's up with that? And I'm like, yeah, you get that, but you have to be able to get that is the thing. You have to have the mentality. And I used to use an analogy at that. If you are at a place like let's say you're on the phones at a Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, or Wells Fargo, or Fidelities of the world, or any of those, even TIAA, or any of those big institutions. Excuse me, pardon me, the beers get me. It's like being a lion at the zoo. You're a lion, and you're prestigious, and you have the royalty of the lion. But remember, there's like kids banging the thing, and there's like taunting you, and they're like mooning you, and throwing like food at you and whatever. And like, you're there, and you got to deal with it because what else are you going to do? You're sort of captive, but you're going to get fed every day.
You get a place to live.
You're going to get fed. You get a place to live, nothing to worry about.
You get some friends.
But the people at these independent brokers, even like your Charles Schwab's or other places where you can basically run your own business, it's like you're a lion on the Serengeti in the wild. If there's a feast and all the wildebeest and the grains are great and all the wildebeest are plenty and all of these that are calving and there's like all these babies you can like just slay and like eat all this meat and have all these lionesses and have this like huge pride, you know, that's great. But when the famine comes, when the drought comes and there's no food to be fed out there, can you live? Because the zookeeper is not there. You're on the Serengeti. When the wildebeest die,
You gotta get creative.
yeah, if you
Think
can't,
outside the box.
right? So if you can't make it through the drought of the Serengeti, then you also can't make it to the next springtime and get that whole pride of
Right. Well, the main difference
and all of the wildebeest and be
is
the alpha of that plot of land. You know
it's
what
like
I mean?
if you make $1 million a year, you're considered successful.
Oh, yeah.
But if you are making $50,000 a year trying to build a business, people won't view you as successful just based on the amount of dollars.
Right.
However, in reality, your company, you could be only making $50,000 a year, but your company's worth $5 million
Yeah.
because of revenues and various
Yeah.
things that it owns.
Or assets, and maybe you have some debts.
But we put such a value on what
right.
we're making, whereas that's really not what's valuable.
Well, it's all superficial. I think we've been sold that sort of. It's banking on the whole movement of like, you know, consumerism in a large sense. To have the latest, greatest, expensive thing is probably a lot of our need to validate ourselves in a society that constantly invalidates us as being
it's the American dream.
like you become a drop in a bucket of water.
Well, I mean, think about it. Buy a house, have kids, have a dog. Now you think about it, the pet business is $billions industry. If you own a house, you have to pay taxes every year to live in the right to live in that house.
Right.
And where does all the interest go to? The banks.
Oh yeah.
Now you do make money on the house, but when you start to think about it,
what do you think about debt in general?
Well, debt means you pay less in taxes.
Right.
And we went off the gold standard in the 70s. Our dollar is not backed by any sort of hard asset. So if you think about it, if I borrow $50,000 from a bank and I go bankrupt, who loses that $50,000? It's not me. It's
right.
the bank. The bank's out of it. So that puts the bank at risk. So we're taught debt is bad. But that's because it puts that companies at risk more than it puts me at risk. If that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Well, you have to do the debt right.
That's right.
Right.
But borrowing the money is the hard part.
You're talking about creating debt under an entity. That's not you.
Just in general. Just borrowing debt in general.
Even under your name.
Yeah, under your name. You get a business line of credit or
sure. Okay.
a home equity line of credit.
Right.
Now, if you use a home equity line of credit, you're using your house as collateral. So you might be jumping too far ahead, but the idea is if you build up your credit, you have a good W-2 job, eventually you can get to a point where banks won't see you as a risk and they're willing to lend you the money. And that's when you should be taking the most risk. Is when you're borrowing banks' money and making sure all of your money is in 401k in your house, which are protected assets. So if you file bankruptcy, they can't take any of the assets that you've worked so hard for.
Right.
So knowing how to hide those things is important.
Now, is it only in your primary residence, or can you also have like investment
homestead
and stuff? Only the homestead.
Only the homestead. So if you think about why do rich people buy super large houses for millions and millions of dollars?
Right.
Oh, bankrupt homestead. Can't kick me out of my house.
Because you have a homestead exemption.
I'm on my Malibu beach house.
Right.
It's worth millions of dollars. Homestead. bankruptcy piece.
Have you seen the show Schitt's Creek on Netflix?
I've watched a few episodes.
So I watched the first episode and I'm not impressed, but now that we've talked about this, it makes me wonder, like, what if they had a homestead exemption on their home, they at least would be able to keep
The house.
what they own. Yeah, the house. But maybe, who knows? I don't know the whole in and out
Don't know
of
either.
what they did. Oh, I don't know. I just thought I wasn't impressed with the show, so I stopped watching it.
That's good.
But it's interesting that you
Yeah.
bring that up because it like was what happened. But that's cool because I know there's some folks. I know Superfan Chris and Superfan Mike are interested in this kind of stuff, and maybe we still have Daniel on with us possibly, and he might be interested in stuff like this because this is how you become rich.
It's written in
really.
Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich
right.
Dad Poor
Rich
Dad.
Poor Dad. Right.
You know, he
right.
believes in more
Yes.
debt equals less taxes.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, not everyone's the kind of person that wants to take on debt, but understanding debt's important on
Right.
how to leverage businesses and move forward in life and all that sort of stuff that we need to know, which we're not taught in school either.
Right.
Never taught this in school.
Yeah. You're not taught the importance of other people's money.
No,
In a way.
we're taught
And how
get
to
a good
how to-
SAT score and high GPA.
like as Marcus Lemonis said on he would describe like he was talking about a barbecue restaurant owner who refused credit card payments because he didn't want the 3% taken out of, or whatever percent, right, from the credit card company, and so he turned away business because they didn't have cash, so they left because they didn't have they didn't have credit cards. So the 3% would have added up, and I think Marcus displayed that with one, or it was maybe two people that walked away because they didn't have cash. And he said, look, that was probably because your profit margin in a restaurant is probably like 50% or a pretty high
Minimum.
profit margin. Right, exactly.
Plus tips.
So huge profit margin. They probably lost, $25 so that he could save maybe $3.
Yeah.
Right. So he was like, he said, you're tripping over dollars to pick up dimes.
Mm-hmm.
And when people don't leverage what they can and use other people's money,
Mm-hmm.
it's like because they don't want to pay the interest because a few $1,000s. But what about if you can make for a few $1,000s interest of borrowing someone's money, you stand to make $60,000 interest,
Yeah.
or capital gains.
Well, we're taught
Wouldn't it
that
be
debt
worth it?
is bad,
You know what
and
I mean?
people are penny pinchers.
Right.
So that's why people
Right.
who have
And they will mortgage their house in order to save. They'll mortgage their house in order to save a few percentage points rather than get like a hard money loan or something like that. You know,
because
what I mean?
people don't want to lose their house. They get emotionally attached to things.
But they
physical
mortgage their house, which now puts their house at risk. If it was paid off, they mortgage the house to get cash instead of that way. They save 4 points of interest.
As they say, all investors are irrational.
Right? It's like you're saving 4 points of interest. Now you mortgaged your whole house that you like. What if the rehab project falls through? Now you've just mortgaged your house. Now you have to pay a mortgage.
Yeah.
And your rehab fell through. Where you could have paid an extra 4 points, and let's say your rehab falls through, and then
we're taught,
and the lender takes the house.
Well,
Okay, fuck.
We're taught mortgages are good debt. Everything else is bad debt.
Right.
Student loans are bad. Credit cards bad. Business lines are bad. Mortgages are good. Home equity lines of credits are decent. But it depends on what you're using the money for.
Right.
Which makes it valuable. Now, if you're just gonna book a, week vacation to Ibiza on your credit card so you can go party with.
Hey, what if you're networking though?
Well, I mean, if you're into that scene, then hey, you're gonna meet you have the access to the right people.
I guess.
But if you're just using it for the sake of pleasure, that's a bad use of debt. But if you're using it,
I mean, you would have to have a pretty secure business plan for going to Ibiza
and networking.
Yeah,
and
networking in Ibiza. Even
I
if you did meet the right person in Ibiza, they're probably too fucked up
Yeah,
to
right.
even know where they are right now.
Someday, dude. Just because you brought it up, someday I wish I could go to.
I mean, there's a story about Mike Posner and Avicii. Do you know Mike Posner?
No.
Mike Posner like wrote the songs like "Cooler Than Me," and he wrote the song "I Took a Pill in Ibiza" just to show Avicii I was cool.
Oh, okay.
And when Avicii was alive, there was a article that came out about him, and he goes, "Oh, what do you think about that Mike Posner song that talks about you?" He goes, Avicii goes, "Who the fuck is Mike Posner? I don't know who that is."
Yeah.
Same thing. Networking in Ibiza. I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You have to be strategic about your debt, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's got to be used for good things.
But you're not taught that strategy.
Because it's scary. Debt is scary.
It is scary.
Borrowing money that you don't have is a weird concept because most people grow up and they don't have money. So once they get it, they don't want to let go of it.
Well, there's that. And I think how many people really have a dream that's strong enough to take that level of risk that I have to pay this back if I fail and I still have to pay it back. If either way, I have to pay it back.
Very
to
few.
believe in something.
Very few.
Yeah, very few. That's why I've like when people say, hey, if you hate your job, start your own job or start your own business. I'm like,
yeah,
very few people can do that.
Well, how much is our dollar worth?
Well, it depends on who we're willing to shoot, because if someone else, like, let's say like Gaddafi, supposedly, I don't know, conspiracy theorist people can back me up on this. Gaddafi was going to create the gold-backed African dinar currency.
What about cryptocurrency? Remember that?
Well, there's cryptocurrency too.
Still around.
Yeah, but there's also some not feasibility, but like sustainability issues with the blockchain. Supposedly, the processing that it takes to continue blockchain is so resource intensive with energy because you have to process so much as it continues. It gets more and more complex.
So something Tesla can help with?
I don't know. Maybe
with their batteries and their solar.
I don't know, but imagine this: that your whole your currency is you're using resources to feed your own just currency. That sounds like
crazy.
That sounds like a dystopian. Like that is adding on top of like we already need resources just to survive against the elements. Like. We should be looking at ways to reduce our consumption of resources. So cryptocurrencies, if we can figure out, like maybe stuff like quantum computing may cause a reduction in the need of, resource intensive computation. But anyway, whatever. Either way, Gaddafi comes out with a gold-backed dinar. What would you rather have? Something backed by gold to buy your oil with or sell your oil? Or would you rather have the US dollar? Backed by nothing.
Except our government.
Except the guns and the government.
And our military.
CIA and the military.
But if you think about it, the U.S. Navy is 10 times larger than all the world's navies combined.
Yes, okay, but imagine you had the same.
And who do we sell our debt to? Everyone else.
Right, yes.
So they all own us.
They own us in a way. But think about this.
But we just said debt's good. So why do all of us complain about the deficit?
Well.
So why does the government believe in debt, but the American people don't? And we're the greatest economy in the world.
Yeah, but I feel like you remember about debt and Ibiza. Yeah. You see what I mean? You have to have a plan and a strategy.
Right.
So if we just constantly chug out, what is our plan and strategy?
Well, the plan and strategy is debt is cheaper than selling.
Should people be privy to that?
Well, the debt is cheaper than selling resources and equity. Because remember back to your Series 7 teaching days, who's first in the liquidation, debt holders or stockholders?
No, sure, debt holders.
And it's the same thing with American debt.
Yeah. But what in the case of American default, or what is it like? If
we default, everyone defaults.
That's what I mean. Like, but if
the ship goes down, everyone's going down.
Okay, so if we talk about geopolitics in the realm of America,
we hear what trade war still is that still a news thing?
Yeah, supposedly some shit happened with China recently, in the trade war. I didn't read it.
I can't keep up.
I can't keep up either.
It changes.
Look,
it changes with every tweet.
It's so fucking weird.
Oh man.
What was I gonna say? So we got all this debt, but first of all, it's like, for all I know, the government's going to Ibiza with it.
Probably.
Yeah. So that's not.
When you
not
go
wise.
to Ibiza with all that debt,
That's not wise, right? So
Hey.
we just said it's not a good idea to go blow it without a plan, right? And so here we are blowing it without a plan, and that's what I'm afraid of. If we took that whole geopolitical thing that we just talked about and we applied it to the ecosystem of a high school, who are we in this? Like, if we are honest, who are we with the biggest military? So basically the biggest,
the only way
kid.
the only way to take us down is through
And I'm in debt.
currency.
I'm in debt with all these kids, all these nerds, right, at school. I'm in debt.
I got all the lunch money.
And I got all the lunch money. I'm like, I'll pay you back.
Not only do I have
I'll
their
pay
lunch
you
money,
back.
they're helping me with my homework.
Yeah, I'll pay you back. And yeah, I'll pay you for the homework later. I'll pay
With your lunch money.
Right. Yeah.
That's what we're doing. You give me the lunch money, and then I pay you to do my homework to get you lunch money back.
Is that who we want to be? Is that who we want to be in school? Should that be who we are?
In the short run, yeah, you do want to be that person.
God.
But in the long run, it doesn't work out well.
I fear for that we are that, if we are honest about that. As a nation, as American citizens, that's happening in our name, I think we forgot as Americans that we are part of a nation, which means something. I know it sounds corny and like sort of like in a way like the 3%, like they sort of hijack that idea of, hey, we're America and we should have a dream and we're brothers and sisters. We'll help each other. We have all these resources.
Yeah, we're really split. Everything's split right now.
Yeah. I think there's an alienation that's happened.
I'm not sure why.
I mean,
what do you think?
For me, it's always easy. And it always, everything funnels to labor and capital relations.
Mm-hmm.
And basically capitalism is what it is. Specifically, not the markets. It's labor and capital relations.
Mm-hmm.
That chattel slavery was abolished, but wage slavery wasn't, is what it is. And even if I escape wage slavery. Is that
what companies are paying people?
Yes.
For their time.
Yeah.
We guarantee you will make at least this much as long as you give us this much time.
Yes. Because
However, we're making 5 to 10 times off of your production.
Exactly. And because, remember this, the capitalist will always pay inversely proportionate to your desperation.
And then you pay all of the taxes and the corporation pays none in taxes.
Bingo. So there's something fundamentally wrong. So what I say, my proposal is we change labor and capital relations to where there's a pathway to equity and ownership in the company that I've helped build. Mm-hmm. To me, it's as easy as understanding that I give you $100, I own a piece of your company. Mm-hmm. If I gave you 100 years, I should own a piece of your company. You see what I mean?
Well, some companies offer that in their 401k.
Sometimes, but we also have to remember that the labor
companies are so large that doesn't even put a drop in the bucket.
Right. But we have to also remember that the labor force is captive. Because what other alternative do you have but to enter into an exploitation relationship if you don't have resources?
Well, if you want something guaranteed, then you're going to have to give up something.
But there's nothing else you can do. Let's say, for instance, I want to go live off the land. Fuck Walmart. I don't want to live. I don't have no skills. I have no resources right now. I'm born poor.
Go sit on a corner.
So, yeah, that's my alternative. You see what I mean?
You can't become a farmer. It's regulated.
Okay, see? So there's no alternative.
Unless you marry a farmer's daughter.
Right. So there's no alternative through, and Marx would call it primitive accumulation, where the rules are such that you kick the peasants out. So where they can't really live off the land anymore, you start sectioning it off. You cut off their irrigation because now it's government and da-da-da. So now they can't live. So where do they have to go?
Section 8 housing.
Or Section 8 housing. But basically, they're in the city searching for wage. Mm-hmm. And they did this way back in the day. Now we can't even imagine living out in the country, except for who? The homestead people or the homesteader movement, the off-grid people. And they're like, fuck
the rat race in corporate America and the cubicle queen shit and blah blah blah. I'm just gonna fucking if we reinstated the commons and said, hey, if you sign up and you might win the lottery of names, here's 10 acres for your family.
Yeah.
People would sign up.
Yeah.
If people had that alternative, what would happen to wages? You see what I mean? It's a captive market because you have no alternative. So we call it a free market wage system, but it's not.
We also live in a world everyone sees problems and never solutions.
These are my solutions.
So
you see,
if you want to make a difference,
I see the problem and I came up with a solution. But it's revolutionary.
But most people go, "Oh, I can't do anything. I don't have."
It's revolutionary
money.
And weird, and people are like, "What? Nobody wants to live in a country or what?" Give people a pathway to equity with outside of the wage because the wage is artificial. You can't base it on wage. Stock repurchase plan. That means you are giving back what is remunerated to you in the first place based on an artificial captive market. I have no alternative. If I could live off the land, fuck Walmart.
Yeah.
There's people out there wake up at the crack of dawn, till their fields, do their shit. They'll be done by 2 p.m. and they'll be like drinking ale.
I think we've all driven over a bridge
You know
and
what I
seen
mean?
someone who's fishing. They go, they're catching dinner.
Right.
Just out there fishing.
That's a dream people have.
Yeah.
If those people left and chased that dream, but the irony is you have to first be exploited enough to buy your way out of exploitation to go there.
Well, you have to be willing to decrease your, style of living.
But you also have to acquire the land and which requires capital, which you have to earn through probably some exploitative relationship, unless you're enterprising enough. I mean, well, what did we say earlier?
You can be surprised.
Only a small percentage of people are enterprising enough to see past to be the lion on the Serengeti.
I mean, you can go on Google and see businesses for sale.
Yeah, true.
You can buy businesses for sale. There's small business owners there.
But you have to have the capital.
Got to borrow it or use your 401k.
And hopefully you weren't born desperate, because remember, capitalists pay inversely proportionate to desperation. The more desperate you are, the less you get paid. Right. So if you're born desperate, how do you get out? It becomes a question. And there was a point in time where people's wages were such that you could actually save and invest in yourself and get a business or get a degree and then move up and then maybe start your own thing or whatever. But now it's like, so the disparity of wages versus inflation for cost of living and those kinds of things, especially housing. You know what I mean?
Well, if you watch like an old movie, like back in the day, you used to have shop in high school.
Yeah, I had shop in high school
because they wanted people to go to the trades.
I had auto
Look, you got shit all over this place. Like when I went to school, all that was gone.
Wow, dude, I had woodworking class. I know basic woodworking because of woodworking class. I remember Mr. Troutwine. He'd always eat a sandwich because my shit was right after lunchtime, but for whatever reason, his schedule was weird, so he always ate a sandwich every time. So I'd be working on some shit, and he would be standing over my shoulder, chewing his fucking sandwich, and shit would be like all up in his mouth. He's like, "Oh, did you measure twice? No, did you remember?" What the fuck, dude? But I learned so much from him.
Yeah.
And then auto shop class, and that, now I heard they don't have that shit. They don't have art class.
I don't know how they change a tire. Like if I broke on the side of the road, I don't.
You don't know?
I don't feel confident because no one taught me.
I've got ideas to create community programs where
AAA,
where mechanics teach you that. How do you jumpstart your car? How do you change your oil? How do you do minor things that people used to know how to do?
I mean, I just look at it as like it's not worth my time to learn how to do it.
Yeah, it might not be. If you don't have the will, skill, or time to do it, then don't do it. Little shit that I learned from Fido. Daniel is saying, yes, sir, I'm interested in always get paid.
Make that money, dog.
We're talking about that. So some little tidbits there. If you got, and really, I mean, we haven't really tied it directly, but what we're talking about now is sort of resonates with the Millennial Slacker program.
That's right.
That you have. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, it's to educate people about adult subjects so that they don't get taken advantage of, and we focus on business, money, health, in relationships. And the reason why we pick business, money, health, and relationships is because those are the big four. And if all of those are hitting on all cylinders, then you are going to be growing as a professional and a person. But if you make a lot of money but don't focus on your health, then you just become that fat.
Well, what sort of instigated this whole project for you?
I just looked at the way the world is and saw that there was a problem. Basically, there needs to be something that teaches us these things that we're not taught in school. So I decided to do something about it. Nice.
Chris asks, by the way, so what is good debt and what is bad debt? Let's see. First, you should understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, it depends what you want. If you want to live the traditional American life, good debt would be a mortgage. Bad debt would be pretty much everything else.
Mm.
If you're a business owner, even if you can get debt at 10%, you can leverage 10% debt pretty easily.
Right. Depending on like what your plan is on the back end, right? For your
exactly.
Return on that.
But if you think about it, even if you pay 10% on an interest loan, that's more than what the stock market pays. So everyone's like, oh, you don't want debt that's more than that. But how much do you pay in taxes? What's your tax rate?
Right. Yeah, true.
If you make $50,000 a year as a W-2 employee, what's your tax rate? Higher than 10%.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the difference between borrowing money, paying 10% interest versus you're borrowing your time from a corporation, paying $50,000.
Right.
It's a huge difference.
So, yeah, that's a pretty interesting perspective. Yeah, like you said, it's we've sort of been given this sort of notion about it and not really taught to use it as a tool. And I mean, and if we start looking at simple in the terms of brokerage world, but like to people that aren't familiar with the brokerage world, doing something like buying on margin.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right, leveraging what you have and
your
taking
assets.
a debt and then paying interest on it. Well, leveraging your assets to buy more assets and just keep the gain.
It's like the seesaw. The bigger the seesaw, the higher you can jump.
Yeah.
The more leverage you have, the higher your assets can go. Now, you could fall and hurt yourself on the bigger seesaw.
Yeah.
But it's worth that thrill because you can only go so high.
Yeah, with your own assets, but you can like multiply your own assets by leveraging that and taking debt against that. And so that's basically what we're talking about. Buying on margin is you're taking your stocks and assets and bonds or whatever that can be used as collateral, and you're borrowing against that. So instead of buying, like, if you can only afford 100 shares of Google, but maybe you want to buy 200 shares of Google, maybe you'll put collateral up.
Well, that's how rich people buy houses.
And that's how they buy houses. There you go.
It's tied to the rate that fluctuates, that you see, interest rates went up, interest rates went down. They use their assets to buy the mortgage on interest with the hopes that those assets don't go down in value.
Right.
Rather than borrowing money from a bank, they're paying interest back to just a bank versus they're paying a smaller interest rate without having to sell any of their assets. Even though they have the money to pay the house in cash, they don't want to pay it in cash because they don't want to give up the return on their assets.
Interesting. Yeah, right. Because then, they would have to.
Because if I sell all my stocks to buy a house, then I don't have my stocks anymore.
Right.
Versus if I can own two assets.
Right.
Two is always greater than one.
Yeah. And in
this world.
And then in at the end of the day, when the dust settles, what cost was it? It was the interest cost. That's it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you get to double, like you get to gain on the stock side and you're gaining on the house side or the asset side. Yeah.
As I say, over time, everything works itself out.
Yeah.
So even in the short run, things go down over time.
So some of you guys might not be so familiar with what he was talking about how the interest rate fluctuates. Sometimes you guys you might hear on the news, they talk about the T-note fluctuate, the yield on the T-note or the I don't know, T-bills are trading at some yield and it's fluctuating, or prime rate has changed. And that's what we're talking about is sometimes some of these things that we're talking about, leveraging and taking loans against your assets and things like that, are tied to these rates. So they fluctuate. And you have to keep that in mind so that you know that your return is legit. So Superfan Chris says, Will, isn't a house a liability as long as you have a mortgage on the property versus being an asset if the property is paid off, and or is a rental property with the cash flow? What are your thoughts?
Well, a home is always an asset, even if you have debt on it. Even if you owe more, if your house is worth $1 and you owe $1.50, it's still an asset. It's just not worth as much as you hope it was worth.
Right. Yeah.
However, if it's worth less, that means less taxes each year that you're paying to own that same property.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're cash flowing it with a rental, you can be paying less in taxes, cash flowing the same amount. Whereas if you're in a higher appreciation house, you can be getting the same cash flow, but paying 2 to 3 times the amount in taxes depending on the value.
Interesting.
So it comes down to home values.
And also remember too, you also get the chance to depreciate. Take the interest deduction on your interest.
So if you rent a house, you get to take the interest deduction. You get to write off all the utilities, lawn service.
Right.
If you put a hole in your wall and you rent it out, you can deduct that.
Mm-hmm.
Telephone, cell phone, marketing. Versus if you live in it as your primary real estate, you get to deduct the interest,
right,
and the taxes.
That's it. Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now you can run a business through your home, but it's only for this small square footage.
That section
versus the whole home is always greater than one section.
Interesting. Well, I will have you note that we probably have one of the closest, probably tied for the highest concurrent viewers at any one time. So it makes me wonder if the finance stuff is.
Hey,
everyone's looking for. I think a lot of people.
Everyone loves money,
man, and they want to. Because
and they want more of it, and they want to know how they get it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's really elusive to folks.
But on the internet, you have all these promises of becoming wealthy, and it's only gonna steal your money. You're never gonna get there.
Oh man!
Like
Facebook people, what do you think? You got 2 people chilling on Facebook. What do you think, Daniel? Are you still with us? We're talking about getting paid, man. There's ways to get paid.
Like I met someone who told me,
and we can talk about that. Dead stare.
Dead stare in the face, saying universal life annuity was the best investment that they've ever bought in their entire life. And I look at this person, and I told him, and I said, and this is a big word. I said, listen, man, most people that sell these things are charlatans. And he goes, what's a charlatan?
Hate to say it. Oh, doesn't know what a charlatan
Didn't know what a charlatan was. I was like, dude, just all you have to do is Google what happened to interest rates when interest rates went down, and the insurance company found out they weren't making enough money. All those people got screwed. Because the insurance company is not going to take the fall for
oh hell no,
your mom's
not when
insurance
they can
policy.
Not what they can. Superfan Chris has some stuff here. He says, I recall in Rich Dad Poor Dad that you should buy your liabilities with money from your assets. For example, a money from a storage unit facility you own, you can take the income from that asset.
Yeah, that's when you're talking about leveraging
liability with that money, correct? Hold on, let's see. If money from a storage, what is he talking about? Money from a storage unit.
The Rich Dad Poor Dad was also before.
Own. So like you're renting out the unit.
Yeah, you're leveraging your assets. So that was when we were talking about leveraging your assets. But you got to be careful because the new tax laws are different.
Oh,
they've eliminated some of that.
He's asking for investing advice. I don't know if we need to make a disclosure.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Superfan Chris is saying, is investing in precious metals a smart move at this time? Or should you invest heavily in Bitcoin, etc.? LOL. I mean, there is. Here's the thing.
I believe there is a future where everyone will have a little bit of crypto in their accounts.
Sure, right. But what is it that you said about risk? I mean, it's the mantra of risk. Don't risk more than you're willing to lose.
Well, Benjamin
basically.
Graham would say, and if you know who Benjamin Graham is or isn't, just Google him. An investment is worth as much as it pays you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you own Amazon, it pays no dividend. So technically, an investment is what it pays you. So if you own a primary residence,
and that's not including capital gain, is it? Or
no, nothing. So if you own it, so think
but
about.
What if you get a lot of capital gain? I mean, there's a point where you can
sell
realize
some.
that capital gain.
That's right.
That should still count as return, right? Total return.
It does.
Yeah.
But that's assuming that it went up.
Right. If it goes up, right. Yeah.
So thinking about like your primary house.
Yeah.
You live in it, doesn't pay you anything, versus a rental is going to give you cash flow. So you can live in the same house and your primary residence is going to be worth less than a rental because of the cash flow that you're getting from rents.
Right.
So 2 same investments, one you get money from, the other you don't.
Yeah.
So an investment's what it pays you. What does Bitcoin pay you? It pays you no dividend.
Right. No dividend.
Can the government tax it? So the government doesn't see any value in it. Now there's value in the the blockchain technology, which companies that are very large are investing into. So maybe you want to look into stable companies with increasing dividends that are investing a lot of money into
or the quantum
computing and the blockchain technology.
Damn.
I think companies like
when it start
Verizon and AT&T or IBM, I'm sure, is doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure MIT has a government-funded thing. That's
companies that have so much money that they don't
know.
have to make any money for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
But they can still pay a dividend.
Yeah.
I mean, Apple pays a dividend because they have so much cash.
Right.
Not because they need to pay a dividend.
Right. But people are looking at that. I mean, and their stock price is priced accordingly.
I mean, precious metals,
those are like, to me,
unless you're owning like the hard asset, then I feel like it's really worth, like if you buy a gold exchange traded fund, it's just mirroring gold.
Yeah.
I mean, do you really own gold?
Not necessarily. You own the
versus
movement
if you go
of
to your
gold.
treasure chest in top hat money bags.
Yeah, an actual physical treasure
closet. I have actual gold.
Yeah.
That's worth a lot more. I mean,
but then you have the cost of storage and
Yeah,
securing the asset.
Yeah, I mean that's all part of the cost.
That's all part of being
business.
top hat money bags, though.
Yeah.
Your hope is that
as they say, more money, more problems.
Yeah,
big and small.
Your hope is that at the end of the road, but
you got to find someone to buy that gold from you.
Yeah.
At a fair and reasonable price.
Right.
Versus buy a stock. I got millions of people willing to buy it for the exact price that it's worth at that point in time.
Interesting. So let's see what else we got here. We have Daniel. Oh, Chris Graham is on here. What's up? All right. So we got some Facebook jumping in. What's up? We got 3 people on Facebook. Glad you're joining in. We got Josh Krafchick on with us, a special guest, and we're talking about all sorts of money stuff. And look, you're gonna get paid. You listen to this for a few minutes, you're gonna get paid. And then the Millennial Slack, what is it?
Millennial Slackers Guide.
Millennial Slackers Guide. Hit up Josh with, or hit me up. I'll get you with his info. And man, dang, I should have put it up here. Anyway, Chris Graham says, I finally got a chance to catch up with you, James Boyd. And yes, this is a great and necessary conversation, guys. All right. Thanks for tuning in. And I agree with you that it is necessary because people don't understand how this works. And now I almost feel like one of those like late night guys, or like, I don't know, man, or some of these I guess sort of like those success podcasters that don't, like they're like, oh, hey, there's this special way, secret to money success.
There is no success that's fun and exciting.
Daniel says,
it's boring.
Both of you fellas are way smarter than I am. I'm just trying to keep up and learn something. Respect, dude. If you have any questions, let us know. Here's the thing, man. There's as the great philosopher Meek Mill said, there's levels to this shit, and sometimes when I'm talking, sometimes I feel like, I'm even still talking from the perspective of a layman to some degree, because I haven't like run a hedge fund or, issued my own bonds and shit like that, or run my own corporation and whatever. But at the same time, as we speak about this stuff, sometimes even the cursory, like the idea of margin is like when I was teaching Series 7, when I first introduced the idea that you have a stocks and you can put your stocks up as collateral for a loan, people were like, what? Oh my God, blow my mind. And I was like, I'd pick up, like every day I was like sweeping the like brains off the floor. Like, what? Or, oh, don't even start with selling a stock short. What does that mean to sell something short? Oh, you don't own it, but you sold it and you'll pay it back later. Hey, I sold your shit. I took some of your stocks. I sold them. I'll give you money back later. Don't worry. I got it. It's going to go down. I'll buy them for cheaper.
It reminds me of like Dumb and Dumber. He's like, what are those? Those are IOUs, sir. Those are as good as gold.
Right.
That's basically what that means.
That's what selling short stock is it's like an IOU on that.
Every penny's accounted for.
Right. Yeah. But it's like the idea of that's so foreign to us because we're not taught that as a basic
Not
level.
taught in school.
This idea of, hey, I have this asset, I can leverage it to take a loan to now take a risk. And I believe like the stock or some investment's good. So I need cash to do that. I'm going to leverage what I have to take.
Gotta call JG Wentworth 86.
Right.
Cash now.
Cash now.
You know?
866.
I need my cash now. Well, it's like when you meet these rich people.
Oh, Superfan Chris said just checked out his site. Great concept.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Been working hard on it.
Well, and Daniel, I think, sort of points to it too, that he's learning something just by us talking about this because it in a way it's
all about collaboration.
It's so out there. It's so foreign, and well,
because most people don't care.
Well, that too. Or I mean, even if they care, they're
most people aren't going to sit in a garage doing a podcast on a Tuesday night at 10:20 at night.
Paid. Yeah, and just talking
about doing it because you want to do it.
Yeah, and talking about like these kind of things. But that's what the premise of the show is, to sort of like bring a fellowship. It's really a fellowship of us, the whole world. And I mean, someone from another country could tune in and we're talking about this shit. These are universal concepts.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're in Sweden or fucking Jacksonville.
There's a reason some countries don't want to know these things and have their people getting out.
Right.
But
that's true.
That's a conversation for a different day.
That's probably a different audience in of itself. I don't know. I got a pretty crazy audience, man. And in fact, I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of folks that are hanging on to learn about some of these things. And I think, sometimes I talk about some pretty deep social issues, but when I get a chance to talk about ways that people can really gain.
Well, it's because we're all selfish.
Isn't it? I mean,
we all want what's in it for me.
I don't know.
What's in it for me?
I think we're not deep down that way, though.
We're not, but we're taught to be that way.
Right, yeah. And I think part of it's that we have to be that way because
we're taught that that's the way to get to success.
Yeah, right. That the world is full of sharks.
But that's why we're having this clash right now in society.
I think there's two philosophies that are fighting each other. There's one of us, I joked around about this because, there's all these people out there in the world talking about civil war in America. There was an article about how Canada's worried about civil war.
Dude, this crazy old man kept telling me, he's like, technically Texas is still owned by Mexico under international law.
Sure, whatever. But
I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
I mean, when Canada is worried that there's an impending civil war here,
Drake becomes a U.S. citizen.
Well, I'm just saying it's like there might be a reality to that. And I was like, well, what's the defining difference between what two sides? And I was like, I wonder if it's going to be something fundamental, like a philosophy, like, are we competitive or are we cooperative? Because the Ayn Rand set, the super libertarian set, are like, we are fighting against each other for the apex. Mm-hmm. And if you die along the way, that's just the market and evolution finding the solution to your
some Darwinism.
Inability. Yeah, social Darwinism through the market. And I believe like we're cooperative. Now, I'm not saying we should immediately jump into the classless, stateless utopia of Marx.
Everyone's paid the same.
Well, it's not even that. It's like what is pay if you don't have money? If there's no such thing as a money system.
Well, if you remember at the beginning of the conversation, what is our money worth?
Yeah. What even is it? It's a figment. It's a figment. And yet
it's a figment of our imagination.
It's
a number on a screen.
Right. It's a figment of our imagination, yet it means so much. Why? Because it can be translated into physical reality as well right now.
Because technically they think money can buy you success.
Yeah. Well, because it can be translated.
But it can just buy you things
that
make you look successful.
But there is a anxiety to not having enough money. Like what happens if
when you're a kid, you have no money and you don't give a shit about anything.
Yeah, because you're supported though.
But are you though? When you look back, not all of us are. You think you are, but technically not.
But I mean, at the same time, there are some at least legal things from the government that prevent you from throwing your 7-year-old kid out on the street or something like that,
There was a time where that wasn't.
No, there was a time.
There was a time where it's like, hey, you need to go make some money. You're 7. You can do some work.
And there's some people that the super libertarian set believe that should be a right that you could do. Send your kid off to school. Mm-hmm. Work to get money for the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which could be righteous or it could be abused. And I think the idea of this martyrdom for work ethic of martyrdom towards the company or work for your family, it's like it's invented. It's like a figment. It's a trap that keeps people simple, like what we're talking about.
Well, in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, he talks about that environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. So essentially, if you grow up in a bad household, we're going to end up being bad people. If you grow up in a good household, most likely you'll be good.
Well, and does that ties into Jim Rohn talking about you are sort of like the average of the 5 people you hang around the most.
Yeah.
So if you're exposed to bad people, especially if they're in your family,
of course,
then you're by default exposed to them.
That's why they recommend only hang out with family for Thanksgiving and the holidays a couple of times a year. You never know.
But what if you have an amazing family? Then it's different. If you're blessed.
Not all of us are blessed.
But what's the chance?
Isn't that the coolest part about being an adult? You get to choose who you hang out with.
That's true.
Versus when you're a kid, you got to do who your parents.
Right.
Oh, you got to hang out with
exactly
Jimmy and Ashley because that's who our friends are.
Yeah, exactly.
They suck. It's like you're 8, get in the car.
We got some more comments coming on Facebook. Thanks for throwing some comments. Let's see. We got Daniel says. Tagging his bro from the Czech Republic. So yeah, the more the merrier. So if you guys have any questions for Josh, throw them on the live chat. If you want to Skype, there's a Skype link. You can be on the show and he'll put on some headphones and talk to you. We can do something like that. Or, we've been going for an hour, a little over an hour. What do you think? You want to take a break and keep going, or are we wrapping this up? Up to you.
I think we should wrap it up and bring it back next week.
Okay. So, actually tomorrow, the normal Boyd schedule is Wednesdays.
What is normal?
So, if you want, we can. Do you want to do it here, or do you want to go?
I think we should do it here. I like the shop.
Okay, good. It makes it's convenient for me because I don't want to drive to the beach.
Yeah.
It's like a whole other state or something. I have to pack a sandwich and shit. So for the folks that are on, it looks like we got 3 folks on Facebook and 2 folks on YouTube. Think of some questions that you have for Josh. Actually, we'll do a show tomorrow at the normal time, 9 p.m. That's a normal air time.
9 p.m.
9 p.m. on Wednesdays is normal air time, Eastern time. And if you have some questions about, how to make some money, if you want to make some money, we can only give you so much advice legally. At least I can. And, you do have credentials
for regulatory purposes.
You are a registered investment advisor, right? Or work with one, but all that aside, we can only give advice to the extent of the law. Anyway, but if you have some questions about debt or investing, or
we can give advice about
like
anything.
The Millennial Slacker Guide. It's really like a lot of life skill shit and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur and you have some questions, come up with some questions. We'll have a show tomorrow and we'll have Josh back on 9 p.m. Daniel, tell your boy from the Czech Republic, tune in tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we will pick up this conversation, tell them to bring some questions, and we never know where the conversation goes. Remember, this is a fellowship of us. So whoever tunes in, you get to ask, and whoever comes in on the archive gets to benefit from your questions. So remember, there's no stupid questions. And we're all going to get better and smarter and stronger as
either you're getting 1% better or 1% worse. If you're getting 1% worse, you're at 0 within a year.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but if you're 1% better, that's 3,000% return.
Oh, really?
And best investment you can make is in yourself. So
there you go. Remember that best investment you can make is in yourself. So don't forget. So folks on Facebook, folks on YouTube, thanks for joining in. And let me see. Don't forget, we got Sub Rock Beats on the beats. And this is Bless You. This has been another episode of The Boyd. And tune in next week. Or no, not next week. Tomorrow.
Mañana.
Yeah, mañana, 9 p.m. Live show. Have some good questions and whatnot. And we will answer them the best we can for you. And all that. So till next time, where is my man? I'll tell you, hey, if one of you guys out there in Facebook or YouTube world is interested in helping me out, oh my God, hold on, I'm having technical difficulties here. Oh no, what's going on? My emulator is having a problem. So why is this? We might be having some technical difficulty. Anyway, tune in.
Luckily, it's the end of the show.
Luckily, it's the end of the show. Glad you guys tuned in, and we will talk to you later.
Peace out.
Deuce.
People listen.
Mike, how's Operation Boring Tape Drive? Just got more interesting.
Go too long.
Yeah.
Dude, Facebook, we got 3 people still listening. Hurt anyway. With me,
I mean, if you search Millennial. Search engine optimization is.
Mike, how's Operation Boring Tape Drive? Just got more interesting.